Good Friday evening, South Carolina weather watchers. I'm your meteorologist, Jesse Peterson, and let's go in and talk about the weather for your Friday evening going into your future. We have some stuff that we are going to go on and talk about for tonight, but before we go on and get into that, let's go on real quick and welcome in the weekend because it is Friday evening, and you know what we do on Friday evenings. Go on and give ourselves a round of applause for making it here. So let's go on and give ourselves a round of applause. Congratulations to all of us. That's number one. Number two, you may have already seen it a little bit. I already see an answer inside the chat right now, but I need some help. This is not because of me, but it's because somebody actually asked me this earlier. They were like, "Hey, I know that you're good with the weather, all that kind of stuff. So go on and I need a weather name, like a couple of weather names that you can go on that can go on and pitch to my team." Because they're actually building a robot that's weather themed. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go on and ask the people, you guys, the subscribers, what is a good robot name based off on weather? So you can go on and put your answers there. If you want it to be even better, go on and click on the top where it says live chat, top chat, wherever it says. Click on questions and then go on and put the answer right there. So, any robot names based off on the weather, go on and put them in there. Go on and put them in there so I can go on and pitch them out. But now that is out of the way, what's on tap for tonight? Well, obviously, we will talk about the warm and unsettled risk of especially even some rainfall activity as we go into tonight, going into the weekend. We'll talk about our strong to severe thunderstorm threats as we go into Saturday, especially Saturday afternoon during the evening times as well. We'll talk about some much needed rainfall as well as we go through the weekend, generally light to moderate. And then we also will go on and talk about the cold air surge that arrives late weekend into early next week. So all of that stuff is what we're going to talk about for tonight. If you have not hit the like button yet, go ahead and do so. Right now, we have around a good 6 people that have tuned in and 4 likes. So if you're a part of that group that have not hit the like button yet, go ahead and do so. Also, make sure that you go in and hit the subscribe button if you're new. We're at 706, trying to get to 800. And also hit the share button. Share with your friends, your family members, your acquaintances, people that you don't even talk to like that, because it helps us out. And you never know, you might spark a new friendship. You never know. All of that's possible when it comes to sharing this channel. But now let's go on and talk about what's currently going on. Well, right now, we do in fact have some rainfall going on over here near Hardyville, Bluffton, Hilton Island, Port Royal, Edisto Beach, going near Seabrook Island. Now, most of this is really just isolated rainfall. When I say that, an isolated shower activity, rather be a little drizzle or rather be like a little bit of a shower, Nothing really too crazy going on. Nothing too crazy. Everybody else actually is dry right now. But if we look at what's going on throughout the entire U.S., there is indeed a good amount of stuff going on right now throughout the state and the country as well. Not only just South Carolina, but also throughout the country. We do have some snowfall going on over here in Maine, going on in pretty much most of the Northeast, getting some snowfall. New York is going all the way up here in the Great Lakes area. We have some snowfall. We have some snowfall in Kansas as well as Colorado. We even have some rainfall going on down here into the deep south, going on into over here in the central U.S., going to the southern Midwest areas. You have some snowfall going on in Montana, also inside of Colorado, some rainfall going on over here in the Pacific Northwest. So a lot of activity going on as we speak right now. What about our cloud cover? Well, cloud cover right now actually seems to be pretty normal for what we were expecting for this time frame. I mean, we see cloud cover going on throughout parts of the low country, the Midlands, the upstate areas. But for the most part, there are some clear spots, and that's what we were expecting. That is exactly what we were expecting as we go throughout tonight. Now, if we look at our cloud cover for the future, what does that look like? Well, it does for the most part look like that cloud cover will increase. We go here to around 2 o'clock in the morning, going all the way to around 5 o'clock in the morning, all the way to 8 o'clock in the morning. I mean, you still see cloud cover going on throughout the state, even throughout the afternoon hours. Yes, there will be clear spots, but no, it won't be completely clear just for like a lot of areas. You go all the way until around 6 o'clock p.m., going all the way to 10 o'clock p.m. tomorrow. And then we get to 12 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. We're still cloudy. And then finally, as we get into like Sunday, like later during the morning hours, going maybe even near noon, we start to see a big burst of clear conditions, maybe trying to get going throughout, especially the upstate, maybe even going on a bit inside of the Midlands as well, the western parts of the state for sure. And then here we go at around 5 to 6 o'clock p.m., only just some little strands of cloud cover going on. But once we get to around 7 o'clock p.m. on Sunday, we are indeed mostly clear, which is something to definitely look forward to as we go into Monday morning. Now, what about for our current temperatures? Current temperatures right now, we have around a good 67 in Columbia, 68 in Orangeburg, as well as 70 in Aiken, 66 in Sumter, as well as 66 in Florence, 67 also inside of Conway, and 62 in North Myrtle Beach, and Myrtle Beach, 65 in Myrtle Inlet, as well as 66 and around Georgetown. We also do have around a good 69 in Somerville, 64 in Charleston, as well as 67 in Beaufort, 62 Hilton Head Island. And as you go on and move your way up into the upstate, you have around a good 63 in Lancaster, Rock Hill, 64 in York, 63 in Spartanburg and Gaffney, as well as 64 in Union, 63 in Greenville, and 65 in Clemson. Now, what about for your air quality? Air quality, for the most part, seems to be mainly in that moderate category. You have a good area, 0 to 50, goes on in like the western low country, goes on in the upstate as well. And then there is a little moderate area, 51 to 100, in terms of our air quality index that goes on throughout the Midlands. Good amount of the low country, coastal areas, PD, Grand Strand areas, all of these areas are inside of a moderate category. So I think most of the state is probably moderate, but it's very close. It's almost like a 60-40 here. Low temperatures for tonight, you have around a good 52 in Spartanburg, 52 in Greenville, as well as 52 in Lawrence, 53 in Greenwood, as well as a good 54 in Newbury. We also have around a good 57 in Columbia, 58 in Sumter, as well as 57 in Florence, 56 Dillon, and 58 in Myrtle Beach, 58 in Georgetown, and 62 inside of Moncks Corner, 65 in Walterboro, and 61 in Charleston, and 64 in Hilton Head Island. High temperatures for tomorrow, you have around a good 65 in Greenville, Spartanburg, 64 in Rock Hill, as well as 65 in Winsboro, 69 Columbia, as well as 69 in Sumter, 67 in Cheraw and Dillon, 64 in Myrtle Beach, and 68 in Georgetown, 70 in Charleston, and 72 in Moncks Corner, 73 in Hilton Head Island, and 76 in Walterboro. Rainfall as we go throughout the next 24 hours or so, 100th of an inch to a 10th of an inch definitely is a possibility throughout like the Spartanburg areas, maybe a bit of some areas more to the north. Then maybe even a 10th of an inch to a quarter of an inch possible in Rock Hill, Greenville, Anderson, Lawrence, going inside of Newbury and Greenwood, Winsboro, Columbia, all these areas are included. Maybe even Sumter, Florence, and Dillon. Quarter of an inch to a half an inch possible for Aiken, Orangeburg, Kingstree, Myrtle Beach, Georgetown, Charleston, Hilton Head Island, and then maybe even a half an inch to an inch possible for Moncks Corner and Barnwell. Now, it looks like that, like I said, the majority of that rainfall will happen inside of that low country, maybe southern Midland areas, and that's what I was talking about either last night or the night before, where I said that most of that rainfall I was watching for would probably be in the low country area, and that was my prediction. Looks like that it may look like that at least throughout the next 24 hours. When we go throughout the next 3 days, though, we'll see what happens throughout a more broader scale throughout the entire event. Now for the crazy score. If you have no idea what the crazy score is, it is a score that we see how crazy the weather is throughout the entire state of South Carolina. And right now we're at a 24. Why are we at a 24? Well, number one, you have that cloud cover ongoing. That will add a lot to it. That will add a lot to it. That, and then also you're going to see a good amount of rainfall. You're going to see a good amount of rainfall potentially as we go throughout tonight, going into later portions of like tonight going to like early tomorrow morning. But almost like a transitional night from dry conditions to potentially rainy conditions. There also, there won't really be too much of a thunderstorm risk. They say that some ingredients are there, but I don't really think that's really too bad. Maybe some lingering sea fog early, like along the coast. But other than that, I don't see anything else here really crazy. Make sure. Oh, also for just in case there is any fog that on goes, make sure that you have your lights on if there is any fog that on goes near your area. SPC outlook for tonight, like I said, light green there. Thunderstorms possible. Just matters if the convection is there with it, really. But for right now, not really too much convection is there with it. Even if I go in and look at the lightning probability, I don't see any thunderstorms right now throughout the state. Tomorrow's the big day that we were talking about in terms of severe weather. We have a marginal risk of severe weather, and it did shrink. I said that this was either going to shrink or they may upgrade it. And right now, it seems like that they did shrink it over into a marginal risk of severe weather now, just for the southern Midland areas and a good amount of the low country, parts of Berkeley County not in it, and eastern portions of Charleston County not in it. Very far eastern Charleston County is not in this. So what are the hazards? Why are we seeing this risk right here? What are the actual precautions that we should possibly be taking? Well, not too much of a hail risk, and I kind of said that as we went into last night. If you saw my short yesterday, I didn't really mention hail being a real active threat for this, even though some models were showing potentially some significant hail. Right now, it's looking like tornadoes and damaging winds, probably the main one being damaging winds. Wind gusts of up to 40 to 60 miles per hour is possible as you go into tomorrow with some of these storms, and then as you go into, like, especially the more western low country, the more southwestern Midland areas, you start to potentially see a little tornado risk. Yes, a little tornado risk here. So we'll see what happens with this as we go into tomorrow, and especially as we go into tomorrow morning. But this is what we're looking at right now. And then as we go into day 3, Sunday, nothing expected there. Fire weather, we're good there. Excessive rainfall, we're good here. So nothing to watch for. Let's go on now and look at the model. So we're going to look at the short term first. We're going to start off here at around 9 o'clock p.m. And you can see, for the most part, as we go in and push this forward, you can see rainfall is kind of moving its way across the state. Here's 2 o'clock in the morning. You have isolated shower activity that's now moving its way in from the west over into the east a little bit. You get to 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, and that convection almost explodes to where we now have a good amount of rainfall falling in the low country. Maybe a good amount of rainfall in the upstate and the PD areas. Like, do not be shocked if you wake up or if you get woken up. If you get woken up easily by rainfall. This might be one of those nights if you do. Me personally, I'm not. But if you are, you might experience that tonight. You go all the way into 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning. Raining all the way from the PD areas over inside of the Midland areas, the upstate as well. You go all the way to around 10 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning. And then once we get to 1 o'clock p.m., this is what we're starting to watch for. So here we are, noon, 1 o'clock p.m. You have not really too much rainfall in the upstate. You're kind of seeing it clear out a little bit inside the PD areas, parts of the Grand Strand areas as well. But by 1 to 2 o'clock p.m., you're starting to see this rainfall right here starting to occur. And some of it could have some moderate to maybe heavy precipitation, and that's what we're looking for in terms of this system, in terms of the severe weather potential that we have. You go all the way through, and it kind of goes through all the way to around 2 to 3 o'clock p.m., going to 4 o'clock p.m. as well. And, after a while, it's relatively over at that time frame for at least like the Tri-County area, but then we still have that potential down there for the more low country, Beaufort, Hilton Head Island, for example. That goes all the way down like 5 o'clock p.m., going on to 6 o'clock p.m.-ish or so, and then it kind of goes away. But we're still not done. Sunday, 12 o'clock in the morning, some more rainfall seems to want to pop up. But we'll talk about the rest of this in just a second. I want to go back and look at this severe weather potential even more in depth and just see what the ingredients are inside of it. Well, if we go all the way, do we have the dew points associated with this? We do. It's relatively limited to coastal low country area and really more of that lower low country. That's the area that I was more not worried or necessarily concerned about, but more interested in. is that very low country area, because that's where I see, the highest amounts of CAPE, the highest amounts of dew points. I mean, I see dew points up near 70 degrees. So that's around like 12 o'clock p.m. ish or so. It goes down after a while. Here's like 3 to 4 o'clock p.m. And then, by that time, you really just start to see these dew points kind of just go down as you go throughout, actually, the afternoon hours. And so you still see some in the 60s, you still see some inside of the high 50s or so, but not quite as high as it was like a bit earlier during the day. And so if you go even into our winds as well, up in the atmosphere, you go all the way to Saturday around, let's do 7 o'clock in the morning, you push it forward. And for the most part, I mean, like we saw that rainfall. I mean, we have 60 to around, mainly just around like high 50s, low 60s in terms of knots. So, that's not like cranking up in the atmosphere. So that's not crazy at all. So I'm not really too concerned about this, really. As, like I said, the atmosphere for tornadoes, they're not really that high. Winds aren't really cranking that much. And then also CAPE as well. CAPE, if you go in and look at it, get out of, this is Saturday, like 11 o'clock a.m. This is kind of like before the main brood of it comes along. But, I mean, you see CAPE levels of up to 1,700. I mean, we go in and click on this sounding right here. It says tornado on it. So if this was to go on and, this rainfall was to go in and absorb this, these conditions, there obviously would be a tornado possible. Now, significant hail, it does also show a little significant hail signature down there as well, up to around 1.75 inches. So, like I said, will that happen? I mean, right now they don't even have anything in terms of hail for us at all, but you never can rule out any sort of small hail with any type of thunderstorm. Never could rule that out at all, because I mean, it's a thunderstorm. I mean, they can just produce, damaging winds. They can produce, if they wanted to, they can produce hail if they wanted to. I mean, anything. All thunderstorms can. But you go all the way to 12 to 1 o'clock p.m. and then to 2 o'clock p.m. and, you have that rainfall eating away at the Cape. And, we have 1,600 joules per kilogram over here in the atmosphere. You have a tornado possible environment. But, I mean, that's just what we're looking at here. Nothing else really to talk about too much here. Except for, you just have to be prepared. Make sure you have that tornado plan in place just in case, especially if you're in that very low country area. Also, if damaging winds or gusty winds start to, make its way in, make sure that you go on and have anything outside that may be loose, strapped down. Make sure that, if you have anything outside that may blow around, anything that you're trying to keep in place that you don't want the wind to really mess with or anything like that, make sure that you go on and get that stuff prepared, tomorrow morning before the main event moves through, going to like the afternoon time. Now remember, this is a marginal risk of severe weather, so this is the very lowest of the low risk. So, we're not really looking at this and saying, oh, we got to prepare now. We're going to see all these dangerous stuff happen. It's a low risk, but low risk should still be taken seriously. No matter how low the risk is still a risk. And even though it's a level 1 out of 5, everybody should be treating it like it does mean business, because, weather obviously doesn't care about, what's going on across the street at your neighbor's house. It doesn't care. It will go on and just do whatever it wants to. So you got to make sure that you're prepared for it, just in case. But we're going to go ahead and continue past this severe weather time frame. We're going to move into Sunday. Here's Sunday, 12 o'clock in the morning right here. You have rainfall moving on throughout, a good amount of the state. Almost everybody in the state is receiving rainfall as we go into like Saturday night into Sunday morning. So again, another night that you might be woken up by rainfall potentially. But look at around 8 to 9 o'clock in the morning, this rainfall is moving out. In fact, even by 10 o'clock in the morning, we're completely done with rainfall. We go throughout the rest of Sunday. Well, there's like a little potential shower possibility as you get to around like maybe 2 or 3 p.m. But, that's very isolated. In fact, I don't even know if that's even going to happen or not. But you have this cold air moving through, and we get cold. We get cold on Sunday as that cold front moves through, and it will also bring some breezy conditions with it as well. It will also bring some. This will also bring some breezy conditions, so make sure that you're watching out for that as we go into Sunday. But now that all of that is out of the way, let's go on now and talk about the long-term future. So if we can go on real quick and just look at the 7 p.m. time frame on Sunday where we just left off on, I mean, you can see we have cold air moving its way through, and we stay dry all the way through Monday, all the way through Tuesday, even as we go to Tuesday, like 4 o'clock p.m., 7 o'clock p.m., even going to 10 o'clock p.m. on Tuesday. You have, for the most part, just nice conditions ongoing as we go all the way through Wednesday. Going to Thursday, things start to change up a little bit, especially as we get into the later parts of next week. We're going to be watching for potentially another little system to move through, another cold front to potentially try and move through as we go into later next week. So we'll see what happens there. Even as we go into Friday as well, maybe something there as well. But then as we go into the weekend, things calm down a little bit, even as we go into Sunday. Monday comes along, of not, next week Monday, like a couple of days, but the week after next week, we start here on Monday, we have some more rainfall. Maybe, I'm not going to say for sure it's snowfall because, we're over 200 hours at this point. And, I mean, right now, we would have to look at the ensembles at that point to see, which we will go in and check out in a little bit and see if they do have it. But everything else past that point, just way too far out to talk about exacts and specifics, but could still be active as we go throughout the first couple of days of March, which I've been talking about for a good little bit. A couple of days ago, I believe, I said one of the titles to my videos was March could potentially start off active. So, we're going to see that activity continue as we end off February going into March. But let's go on real quick and look at the dew points real quick. But if you go in and look at the one for, obviously, on Saturday going into Sunday, there goes the cold front pushing through this weekend. We get dry air moving through. These are not temperatures. These are just dry and warm, well, not warm, but moist air. But if you go all the way through, I mean, we really start to see that moisture start to kind of build up as we go into next week. And then, like, again, we have some more moist air coming in as you go into around, like, later parts of next week, almost going even into next weekend. And then we start to see that cold front moving through again, but that warm air and that cooler air are kind of just having that battle over the state as you go into early parts of March, potentially. You want to see it even on a better scale. Let's go to the actual temperature anomalies real quick. I mean, you can see how, cool air kind of makes its way through. But if we go all the way back, we go here, start off on Saturday. And then as we go into Sunday, you really start to see that cooler air really start to make its way through, 15, 20 degrees below average as you go into Sunday, even as you go into Monday, going even into Tuesday. I mean, we're 15 to 20 degrees below average as we go throughout the early part of next week. We go into Wednesday, things start to get more normal, maybe just 1 degree below average, 3 degrees below average, maybe just average in general. And then we warm up as we get into like next week, especially the later parts, Thursday, 14, 15 degrees above average. Then once we get to around Friday, going into Saturday, even into Sunday as well, we still stay relatively above average. But until we get into not next week Monday, but the week after next week Monday, we start to see some more cooler conditions really starting to make its way through. And then finally, I did want to look at the ensembles real quick as well, just to see what they have to say in terms of temperatures for the future, and just the temperatures for now real quick. Actually, before we go and look at the ensembles, let me go in and load up the actual temperatures real quick. I've been talking about this for the past couple of days, but remember, freezing temperatures are coming back next week, especially as we get into Sunday night, Monday morning, and especially Tuesday night, or not Tuesday night, Monday night going into Tuesday morning. Remember, they're coming back. Temperatures will be rising back up though as we go obviously into the end of next week, but won't really last too long as more cooler air will build its way through. But one thing that I did want to go on and look at is obviously, like I said, the ensembles, the GEFS real quick. And let's go and look at the mean temperature real quick. If you want to push this forward, you see, for the most part, temperatures mostly staying. As we get into next weekend, temperatures staying in the 50s, 60s-ish or so, trying to get back down to the 30s-ish or so. But you're not really seeing anything else too crazy. I'm just seeing a lot of 60s and maybe some low 40s, high 30s as we go later into the end of February, going into the early parts of March. But things will change. This is an ensemble, meaning that it's based off of an average. It's not based off of just one model run. It's a bunch of models put together, and it kind of forces it all together into one mean average. And even if we go on and look at because I know I did see some snow on the other model, surprisingly, the ensembles actually do have a little bit of snow trying to go on. It's very low, maybe 2/10 of an inch, maybe a 1/10 of an inch, or maybe even close to an inch, So, I'm not ruling it out saying, that it's impossible or anything like that, but, I'm just saying that the map here, at least for the ensemble, has something here that's 200 to 300 hours out. So something to look for. I'm not saying that it is going to snow, and I'm not saying that if you hate snow you need to start getting upset, all that kind of stuff. But just something to look at as we continue to go throughout the late part of February, going even into early March. That would be something interesting to see there. But that's all that I have to really say in terms of our long-term future. So to make sure that I went over everything, cold air surge arrives late weekend into early next week. We talked about that. We also talked about a bit of a warm-up as we go into later next week. And then some much-needed rainfall. We can go in and look at that real quick before we go on and talk with the audience. Go in and just look at the rainfall potential or the rainfall totals as we go throughout we can do next 72 hours or so, goes through Monday, 7 o'clock p.m. You see rainfall totals actually getting pretty far up there. You see ranges getting to around maybe an inch or so for some spots in the low country. You see maybe 4/10 of an inch over there inside of Columbia, maybe even 3/10 of an inch over there inside of parts of Greenville, Spartanburg areas as well. So definitely a good amount of rainfall is expected with this, and this will help out with our drought, especially inside the low country area, and the southern Midlands as well. Unfortunately, that area up there inside the upstate doesn't seem to want to get much as we go throughout the next 3 days with this system. And then, obviously as we continue our way throughout, Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they look like relatively dry days. So this weekend system that we get here might be some of the last rainfall that we get before the next update. So we'll see what happens there. But let's go on now and talk with the audience. If you want to be a part of the audience, you can by joining us at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Let's see what the audience has to say for tonight. Starting off, my Aunt Lula was here first tonight. She says, "Good evening, everyone. Good evening to you. I pray that everyone had a great day." Well, I did. Thank you so much for asking. She also says today in Georgetown, our high was 57 degrees. 57 degrees. At my house, it was actually around a good... Let me check it. Around a good 80. Yeah, got to around 79.9. So I'm saying 80 degrees today is what we experienced. My nan says, "Hello, Jay. A really nice warm day topped off with some rainfall." Well, I'm glad to hear that. Definitely you got some rainfall, because I know you need the rainfall. And so everybody that got rainfall should be, for the most part, happy that they got the rainfall today. Thank you so much for the robot name. I'll go on and submit that. Thad says, "Good Friday evening just from the 360 Weather family. I trust all is well. All is well with me. Thank you so much for asking." Mr. Anthony says, "Good evening, everyone. Good evening to you." Thad says, it was a very nice day full of sunshine here today." Well, that's great to hear from you. Trail says, "Greetings, everyone. Greetings to you." And then Thad says, "Highs near 80 degrees. Winds nice and mild." So we got actually pretty close with y'all today here in South Carolina, though. Maya Lewis says about 1 o'clock p.m. I went downtown Georgetown. The wind was about 5 miles per hour and lots of rain at the time. I didn't know if I should go inside the building and stay in my car. It was rough. Then I went inside. I thought it was a tornado. It didn't last long, but it was scary. Well, if it was a tornado, or if you thought it was a tornado, I can guarantee you it probably was more than 5 miles per hour. 5 miles per hour would be nothing that anybody really would be worried about. You probably would barely even feel it. So if it was scary, I think that it probably would be more than 5 miles per hour. In fact, I think if I went down here, you said the highest wind gust you got in Georgetown was 34. So that sounds a lot more accurate. Let's see, continuing way down. That's thank you so much for that robot name as well. She also says currently in Georgetown it's 66 degrees. Mr. Chris shows up and says, good evening everyone, hope you all had a great day. Sorry that I'm late. Currently it's 68 degrees here in Moncks Corner. Was 80 degrees here for a high. Well, thank you so much for that weather update for where you are. Then was not that bad, but some heavy rain happened around 1:10 p.m. I got some rainfall around 2 o'clock, like 2 o'clock, 2:10-ish, somewhere around there. But that's about it. I didn't really see anything else too much more crazier than that. But the roads were kind of a bit wet this morning. Was it due to rainfall? I mean, I'm not quite sure, obviously, because I was asleep. But I do believe, if I go in and check, yeah, no, I don't really see anything. I mean, I think it may have just potentially been some fog activity, potentially. But, I mean, yeah, I didn't say any rain fell last night at my house, but the roads were a bit moist this morning. Continuing on. I don't see anything else. Mr. Chris said exactly. A low risk is still a risk. Absolutely. Any risk is definitely a risk that you have to take seriously for when it comes to severe weather and excessive rainfall. But that's all that I have to say here for the chat. Remember to go on and put your answers inside of the Q&A section. If you want to press the top chat or the live chat, whichever one that you have on right now. Go on to the bottom, click on questions, and go on and put your questions in there. Remember to also go on and switch back to the live chat, because if you put something inside the questions thing that's supposed to be for the live chat, I might accidentally miss it. So just make sure that you go on and put it inside the questions tab, and then go back to the live chat. Make sure that you go back to it as well. If you don't know what the question is, here it is on the screen, and it should be at the top of the chat as well. But let's talk about the 4 locations outside of South Carolina. You might be asking, 4 locations, what am I talking about? I'm talking about San Antonio, Texas, Raleigh, North Carolina, as well as Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Duncan, Oklahoma. The reason why we talk about these 4 areas is because we have people from these areas who tune in almost nightly, and because they tune in almost nightly, we go on and give them their forecast for them. And their area is not even inside of the state of South Carolina. Really, some of them not even close, but yet they still show up either way almost nightly. So we go on and give them their forecast for them. So we start off with San Antonio first. We have low temperatures tonight at 58, high temperatures tomorrow at 77, and then low temperatures tomorrow night at 43. Precipitation, not really expected at this time, and that's not really to your advantage because you have a red flag warning for tomorrow. What does that mean? Well, for right now, it actually just looks like that low relative humidity, mainly down as to 10%, and then you'll have wind gusts of up to 30 miles per hour. Any fires that develop will likely spread rapidly. Outdoor burning is not recommended. So I've been telling you since, honestly, like maybe 4, 5, 6 days or so, watching out for this system right here. Maybe not that long, but I've been telling you for a while. That's all I know about this potential fire weather threat as you go into tomorrow. And you do have an elevated fire weather conditions risk. So make sure that you are aware of that. Don't burn anything tomorrow if you don't have to, because fire could spread rapidly if you do so. Now, in terms of other stuff, in terms of severe weather, nothing really else is expected. Excessive rainfall for you and just for everybody else in general, not expected at this time. Then for Raleigh, North Carolina. Oh, wait, hold on. Wait a minute. Before we get to Raleigh, let me go in and talk about what's going on in terms of your future. You will cool down this weekend, but then as you go into next week, you will warm back up. In fact, I told you that there was a potential for a potential 90. They have since lowered that now down to 86. So, I mean, it's still possible. We'll see what happens, but right now it's looking more like mid 80s instead of 90s as you go into like that later part of the week next week. Then we can go to Raleigh, North Carolina. Low temperatures tonight at 54. High temperatures tomorrow at 61. Then low temperatures tomorrow night at 44. Precipitation not expected for tonight, but tomorrow there is a chance of showers. And then tomorrow night, rain is likely. Rain is likely as you go into tomorrow night. So make sure that you are prepared for that. Severe weather, excessive rainfall, not expected at this time. So you don't have to, worry about that, even though there is, risk in South Carolina. Not enough to quite reach it up there to Raleigh. Now, in terms of your future, looks like that, like I said, it will be a pretty rainy weekend as you go into Saturday night, and Sunday. But as you go into next week, those temperatures will actually decrease. You will see a bit of a cool down as you go into like early next week. But as you get more and more into the later parts of next week, you will start to see it increase back up. Even as you go into the midweek as well, you'll see 61, 64. So, you'll be back to normal for the most part. Then for Philadelphia, you have low temperatures tonight at 37, high temperatures tomorrow at 48, and then low temperatures tomorrow night at 33. Precipitation, there is a chance of drizzle as you go into tonight, and, there already is a fog going on out there already, so that pretty much is already occurring, fog/a mist going on right now. And there also will be some areas of fog, so not only will there be that chance of drizzle, but also that fog risk will be there, that mist risk will be there, like I just said a bit earlier, like 15-20 seconds ago. So, visibility is not going to be too great out there. Don't go out driving tonight if you don't have to. But if you have to, obviously you have to. Then what about for, just tomorrow, nothing there. Tomorrow night, chance of rainfall there as well. And then there is a bit of a rain/a snow chance as you go into Sunday night as well. Monday, you also have a snow likely. Snow is likely on Monday as well. That comes actually with a winter storm watch. Yes, a winter storm watch for you. So you may have to watch out for a good amount of snowfall potentially. I mean, right now, the warning right now says heavy snow. Total snow accumulations exceeding 6 inches and winds can gust as high as 35 miles per hour. So definitely be wary of that as you go into this weekend into early next week. Other than that, other stuff in terms of your future, it looks like that you will be kind of dropping in terms of temperatures, but for the most part, that's about it. And then finally for Duncan, Oklahoma, low temperatures tonight at 32, high temperatures tomorrow at 53, and then low temperatures tomorrow night at 28. Precipitation not expected at this time for the next 7 days, so you're good there for now. Things can always change, but for right now, you're good. In terms of your future, looks like that you will be, for the most part, warming back up, especially as you get into next week. 75 on Tuesday, 83 on Wednesday, 75 on Thursday, 80 on Friday, things like that. But other than that, it just seems like that you're just going to be nice and dry. No severe weather, no excessive rainfall, anything like that either. So that's all I have to say throughout the 4 areas outside of South Carolina. So let's go in and talk about the entire U.S. That includes South Carolina, that includes the 4 areas that we just talked about, weather news-wise. Gusty winds and low relative humidity will bring elevated to critical fire weather conditions to the southern high plains through the weekend. A winter storm will track across the Great Lakes in the northeast into Saturday, with areas of wintry mix and heavy snow from northern New York through southern Maine. You also will see the potential for a winter storm down there inside of areas like West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Maryland, going on inside of New Jersey as well. And then other areas as well that might potentially get some freezing, maybe with a cold weather advisory out there in California. They're going to be actually getting pretty cold. They actually might be even freezing, down to like the low 30s in parts of California. So a lot of things going on, but for the most part, stuff that we've already been kind of expecting at this time, though. But that's all I have to say here for tonight. Make sure that if you have not hit the like button yet, go in and do so right now. We have around a good 21 people that have tuned in and only 8 likes. If you are a part of that group of 13 that have not hit the like button yet, go in and do so. It's free, and you can change your mind at any time. Also, hit the subscribe button. We're at 706, trying to get to 800. 94 away. And also make sure that you go and hit the share button. Share with your friends, your family members, your acquaintances, people that you don't even talk to, or people that you don't even like, or people that you just met yesterday. It could be anybody. So go in and share it to them. And then for the most part, that's it there. Top fans of the night for tonight. It actually was a good bit. Had a bit of good variety tonight. I might have to do a little hand count on this one. 5, 6. See about 7, 8, 9, 10. And then here I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So, okay. We got a new number 1 tonight. Maya U is at number 1 for tonight. Mr. Chris is at number 2. And then my Nana's at number 3. So congratulations to the 3 of y'all. Hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. I take that back, actually. Thad's at number 3. I apologize for that. So congratulations to the 3 of y'all for being the top fans of the night for tonight. Let's go and give them a round of applause. If you want to be part of the top fans, you can by joining us at 9 o'clock p.m., being a subscriber of the channel, as well as being here early and being active. All 4 of those things will guarantee get you a spot in the top fans category up there, top 3. But that's all I have to say here. Make sure, like I said, go on and hit that like button, subscribe button, share button. If you're new, hit those 2 buttons before you leave. I'll be back here tomorrow morning. I'm not quite sure if I'll be here tomorrow evening. We'll see what happens. If I'm not, I will put out a message saying that I won't. But for right now, I'm still just gonna say that I will. But like I said, might not. So we'll see what happens. We will see what happens tomorrow. But I will be here tomorrow morning. Thank you everyone for the robot names. If you have not gone on and do so already, go on and do so. I will be back tomorrow. Everyone have a fantastic rest of your Friday.